The world is unmade. Wind screams down from the ice-crowned peaks, a solid wall of sound and fury that scours the rock bare. Snow dotted horizontally, not falling but attacking, each flake a tiny, frozen dart. For Kale, the horizon, the ground, and the sky have dissolved into a single churning whiteness. The spear in his grip is a thing of lead and ice, and the furs on his back feel as thin as summer leaves. This is not weather, it is a hungry entity, a true monster of the great cold that defines this epoch of prehistoric life. The blizzard erases everything, and he knows with the cold certainty of a seasoned hunter that to be caught in its teeth is to have his own bones scattered by the spring thaw. His only thought, the single flickering ember in the freezing cave of his mind, is shelter. He stumbles, his feet finding purchase on memory rather than sight. A ridge of black stone, a place he has paused before. He follows it, one hand scraping against the rock, his knuckles raw and bleeding, the blood freezing black in an instant. Then he feels it, a subtle break in the wind's assault, a hollow in the roaring, a dark slash against the stone, no bigger than a wolf's den. It is not a choice, it is the only answer the world has offered. He crawls into the opening on his belly, dragging his spear behind him, the raw force of the storm trying to claw him back out. Inside, the sound of the wind drops to a low, mournful moan. The sudden stillness is deafening. For a moment, relief washes over him, so profound it is almost painful. But the relief is fleeting, replaced by a deepened primal unease. It is not cold in here. The air is still, but it carries a strange, living warmth. It is the thick, musky scent of animal hair, of old meat, of breath held in an enclosed space for a very long time. His eyes, straining in the deep gloom, begin to adjust. He sees the contours of the small cavern, the way the rock curves inward, and he sees that the back of the cave is not stone. It is a vast, heaving wall of dark, shaggy fur. Panic is a wildfire, but the ice in his veins quenches it. Kale's body wants to recoil, to scramble backward into the blizzard's lethal embrace, but his mind, the hunter's mind, that has kept him alive in a world of teeth and claws, locks him in place. He becomes stoned. He slows his breathing, mimicking the great beast's rhythm, a desperate attempt to become part of the cave's fabric. To move is to die. To make a sound is to die. He understands this with a clarity that transcends fear. This is the brutal calculus of prehistory. He is no longer a man, but a piece of rock, a shadow, a silent prayer. The beast's deep state of torpor is his only shield, a fragile truce granted by the season, not by the beast itself. Time dissolves. The narrow slit of the entrance cycles from a pale, furious grey to an impenetrable black and back again. One day passes, then another. He does not count them. The world shrinks to this single, suffocating reality. The air is thick with the scent of the bear's breath, a warm, faintly rotten smell that curds his tongue. The low rumble of its breathing becomes the beat of his own heart, a constant, earth-shaking vibration that travels through the stone floor and into his bones. The warmth radiating from the colossal body is a cruel mercy. It keeps the deadliest edge of the cold at bay, but it is also the heat of his own funeral pyre. This proximity, this shared life in the dark, is an intimacy more terrifying than any fight. The true enemies begin their assault from within. First, the shivering. It starts in his hands and feet and threatens to convulse his entire body. He clenches every muscle, fighting the tremors, knowing a single audible chatter of his teeth could stir the sweeping mountain beside him. Then hunger. It is a gnawing rat in his belly, a physical pain that sharpens his senses to an unbearable degree. He can smell the fat under the beast's thick hide, can almost taste the memory of roasted marrow. The small leather pouch at his hip holds 3 strips of dried mammoth meat. A universe of salvation only inches away, but it might as well be on the moon. The slow creep of hypothermia is next, a numbness that feels deceptively like peace, dulling the edges of his fear. His thoughts become slow syrupy. This is the silent killer, the true challenge that defined the existence of ancient humans, and he must fight it with the last embers of his will. He forces himself to think of his clan, of the warmth of the fire pit, of the faces of his children, anything to keep his mind from sinking into the cold, quiet dark. The bear shifts, a movement as vast and indifferent as a landslide. A massive paw, tipped with claws like shards of obsidian, flexes in sleep, the tip of one claw scraping the rock inches from his face. The sound is a crack of thunder in the tomb-like silence, and Kale's world stops. He does not breathe. He does not blink. His entire being is focused on the sound of that claw against stone, an epitaph already written. But the mountain only sighs a deep, guttural sound of contentment and settles back into its profound slumber. The moment passes. The crisis was imagined, yet it leaves Kale as drained as if a Chidi wrestled the beast. He has survived another moment, but the war of attrition grinds on. His existence has become a litany of minute, agonizing choices. When a droplet of meltwater forms on the ceiling above, he must wait for the bear's exhalation to cover the sound of his tongue darting out to catch it. He learns the rhythm of the beast's sleep, the deeper stillness that signifies its descent into the coldest parts of its hibernation cycle, and uses those precious intervals to shift his weight, infinitesimally, to keep the blood flowing to his frozen limbs. He is deep in the territory of hominid history, living a story that will never be told, only felt in the genes of those who survive. The blizzards howl outside lessens, the light at the entrance growing stronger, clearer. Hope is a dangerous thing, a spark that can lead to a fatal mistake. Yet it flickers. The storm is breaking. He knows this means the air will grow colder before it warms, but it is a sign of change, an end to this frozen eternity. It is then that the rhythm of the bear's breathing changes. It is no longer the deep, slow tide of hibernation. It is shallower, punctuated by a faint, wet snuffling. A subtle shift in the air, the first hints of the coming spring, is reaching the beast's ancient senses. The waking is not a sudden eruption, but a slow, geological process. A deep tremor runs through the massive body. A lazy, world-ending yawn reveals a cavern of bone-white teeth. This is the moment. It is now or never. The bear is not yet awake, but it is stirring from the deepest chasms of its slumber. Its movements are sluggish, its senses dull. Kale's mind, sharpened by days of terror and starvation, is a spear point. He has rehearsed this 1,000 times in the silent theater of his mind. He does not think, he acts. Moving with a slowness that is excruciating, he begins to slide backward. Every grain of sand is an enemy, now a low whistle to mask the faint rustle of his furs against the ground. He reaches the cave entrance, the frigid air a shocking, painful kiss on his skin. He turns, and for a fleeting second, he looks back into the gloom. Two small, black eyes are opening, reflecting the pale light. They are not yet filled with rage, only a slow, drowsy curiosity. It is the last mercy he will be granted. It is the last mercy he will be granted. Kale scrambles out into the blinding white of the new fallen snow and runs. He runs from the tomb that was almost his bare feet screaming on the frozen ground, the first true breaths of freedom burning in his lungs like fire. He has faced the god of winter in its holiest sanctum and has walked away. The world Kale returns to is pristine, remade by the storm in brilliant, unforgiving white. The ordeal has carved something from him, leaving him gaunt, hollowed out, but it has also forged something new in its place. He has learned the ultimate lesson of survival in this age of titans, that sometimes the greatest weapon of Homo sapiens is not the sharpened flint of an atlas or the coordinated charge of a hunting party. The only thing that stands between the fragile spark of human life and the overwhelming power of the prehistoric world is the courage to be still, to become less than a whisper, in the presence of a sleeping monster. This knowledge, paid for in hunger and terror, becomes a new kind of power, a story he will carry back to his clan etched not on stone, but on the sinew of his own soul. It is a testament to the quiet defiance of our human ancestors, a promise that even when faced with impossible odds, humanity's answer is not always a roar, but the unyielding will to simply endure until the moment comes to move. For in the deep silence of a frozen world, we learn that the most profound acts of courage are those that go unseen. The hunter's footprints are already beginning to fade in the wind.